Step into the gritty streets of 1850s London, where children as young as 9 fight to survive in a world of slums, disease, and relentless labor. From the damp tenements of St. Giles to the muddy banks of the Thames, these tales reveal the resilience of young crossing sweepers, mudlarks, costermongers, and apprentices, whose small acts of courage, singing carols for pennies, scavenging coal, or learning a trade defied poverty's grip. Their struggles fueled a city's growth and sparked reforms that changed childhood forever, leaving a legacy of hope carved from hardship. Story 1. The daily grind of chimney sweeps. So imagine yourself as a small boy, no more than 6 or 7 years old, awakening before dawn in the cramped attic of a master's house in the heart of London's East End. The year is 1850, and the city around you hums with the ceaseless energy of the Victorian era, a time when coal fires warm every hearth and factory chimney belches smoke into the gray sky. But for you, this world is not one of progress or prosperity. It is defined by the narrow, soot-filled flues that twist through the grand homes of the wealthy. As a chimney sweep's apprentice, your day begins in darkness with the sharp prod of your master's stick urging you from a thin straw mattress shared with other boys like yourself. The air is thick with the acrid scent of coal dust, clinging to your ragged clothes and embedding itself in your skin. A constant reminder of the labor that awaits. You rise quickly, knowing hesitation brings a cuff to the ear, or worse. Breakfast, if it can be called that, is a hunk of stale bread dipped in weak beer, hastily swallowed while your master, a burly man hardened by years in the trade, inspects his tools. These include brushes, scrapers, and the climbing irons that will soon dig into your tender knees and elbows. Children like you are chosen for this work precisely because of your size. Adults simply cannot fit into the tight, winding chimneys that measure as little as 9 inches square in some older buildings. Your slight frame, often malnourished to keep you small, allows you to navigate these confined spaces where soot accumulates in thick layers, sometimes up to a foot deep after months of neglect. By first light, you are out on the streets, trudging behind the master's cart, loaded with equipment. London's thoroughfares are already bustling. Horse-drawn omnibuses clatter by, street vendors hawk their wares, and the fog known as the London particular mixes with the ever-present smoke to create a haze that stings your eyes. You arrive at the first house, perhaps a respectable terrace in Bloomsbury, where the servants eye you warily as you enter through the back door. Stripped to your underclothes to avoid soiling the floors, you are hoisted into the fireplace. The master lights a small fire below to loosen the soot, and up you go, brushing and scraping as you climb. The flue is pitch black, the walls rough brick that tears at your skin. Soot cascades down, filling your mouth, nose, and lungs. You cough and sputter, but stopping is not an option. Falls are common, leading to broken bones, or worse. And the constant exposure to creosote, terry residues, skin irritations that fester into sores. Hours pass in this suffocating void, your world reduced to the scrape of metal on brick and the muffled commands from below. Emerging at last, blackened from head to toe, you might receive a penny or two if the homeowner is generous, but most goes to your master. This routine repeats at house after house, from dawn until dusk, 6 days a week. Sundays offer scant relief, perhaps a visit to a ragged school, if you're lucky, where basic letters and numbers are taught amid the din of other urchins. But for many, the Sabbath is just another day to beg or scavenge, as families rely on your meager earnings to survive the grinding poverty of the slums. The physical toll is immense. Your growth is stunted, your lungs weakened by perpetual inhalation of dust, and deformities from constant climbing, such as twisted spines or knock-knees, are commonplace among sweeps. Yet, in this era, such work is seen as necessary, a way for orphaned or impoverished children to earn their keep rather than burden the parish. Laws exist on paper to regulate the trade, like the Chimney Sweepers Act of 1840. But enforcement is lax, and masters often ignore age limits or safety measures. You learn resilience through sheer necessity, forming bonds with fellow apprentices. In whispered conversations during rare idle moments, sharing tales of better lives imagined beyond the rooftops. As the sun sets and you collapse onto your mat, covered in the day's grime, the question lingers in your weary mind: how much longer can such fragile young bodies withstand this unyielding cycle of darkness and drudgery? And what hidden scars will it leave on the soul? You are still that young chimney sweep, navigating the harsh realities of Victorian London in 1850, where the city's relentless demand for clean hearths shapes your existence. The soot-stained flues you climb daily are not just physical spaces, but a metaphor for the narrow, constricting life you lead. As you move from one job to the next, the rhythm of your days is dictated by the needs of the wealthier classes, whose cozy fires depend on your labor. But what does this life do to you beyond the visible grime and scrapes? The toll on your body and mind deepens, and the faint hope of something better flickers in the rare moments of rest. Though the path to it remains unclear, each morning you wake to the same routine, your small frame aching from the previous day's exertions. Your master, often a former sweep himself, shows little sympathy. To him, you are less a child than a tool, valued only for your ability to fit into the tightest chimneys. The work is grueling, but it's the unspoken rules of survival that weigh heaviest. You learn quickly to suppress coughs and hide injuries, lest you be deemed unfit and cast out to the streets or the dreaded workhouse. Food is scarce, perhaps a watery porridge or a scrap of meat on a good day, but hunger is a constant companion, keeping you small enough to slip through flues, but weak enough to tire quickly. Some masters, driven by greed, deliberately underfeed their apprentices to maintain their slight builds, ensuring they remain useful for longer. The camaraderie among the sweeps offers a sliver of comfort. In the dim light of the attic, or during brief pauses between jobs, you and the other boys share stories, not of fairy tales, but of practical dreams. A warm meal, a day without climbing, or perhaps a future as a costermonger selling fruit in the market. These bonds are forged in shared suffering as you exchange tips on navigating tricky flues or soothing raw skin with stolen grease from the master's cart. Yet betrayal lurks. Some older boys, hardened by years in the trade, might bully the younger ones for a larger share of bread or the master's favor. The city itself is both your prison and your stage. London's streets, From the cobbled lanes of Whitechapel to the grand squares of Mayfair are your workplace. You navigate them with a mix of dread and familiarity, dodging carriages and sidestepping the pure finders, collecting dog waste for tanneries. The public sees you as a curiosity, small, blackened figures scurrying behind their masters, but few understand the dangers you face. Chimney fires, caused by built-up soot igniting, can trap you inside a flue, while collapses or sudden drops leave boys maimed or dead. Medical care is a luxury you cannot afford. A broken arm might be splinted with rags, but infections often claim lives before they reach adulthood. Reformers like Lord Shaftesbury are beginning to speak out against child labor, and whispers of new laws reach even your ears, but change feels distant. The Chimney Sweepers Act of 1840, meant to protect boys like you, is largely ignored. Masters bribe inspectors or hide their youngest workers during rare visits. For now, your survival depends on resilience and cunning learning, which houses tip generously, which flues are safest, and how to endure the master's temper. Sundays might bring a ragged school lesson, where a kind teacher offers a glimpse of a world beyond soot, teaching you to scratch out your name or read a Bible verse. These moments plant seeds of hope, but they also sharpen the sting of your reality. As you lie on your mat at night, the city's distant clamor fading, you wonder about escape. Could a boy like you ever break free from the cycle of sweeps? Or is the soot that coats your skin destined to define your future? The stories of older sweeps who graduated to other trades or didn't haunt your thoughts, leaving you to ponder what lies beyond the next chimney. You are still that young chimney sweep in Victorian London, 1850. Your days consumed by the relentless climb through soot-choked flues. The physical and emotional scars of this life have hardened you, but the question of escape or endurance lingers, shaping your final steps in this grueling chapter. As you navigate the last houses of the day, your small hands calloused and your lungs heavy with dust, the reality of your existence comes into sharper focus. The city's progress marches on, but for you, survival is a daily negotiation, and the hope of a different life is both a beacon and a taunt. The climax of your story is not a dramatic rebellion or a heroic rescue, but the quiet, persistent struggle to endure. Some boys, you've heard, do escape the trade. A few, grown too large for the flues, find work as laborers or hawkers, though many carry the marks of their childhood's stooped backs, weakened lungs, or the persistent cough that signals chimney sweeps cancer, a grim legacy of creosote exposure. Others, less fortunate, succumb to falls, fires, or disease before reaching their teens. You've seen it firsthand. A boy named Tom, barely 9, who slipped in a crumbling flue and never climbed again. His absence left a silence among the apprentices, a reminder of your own fragility. Yet, there are glimmers of change on the horizon. Reformers, driven by tales of boys like you, are pushing harder against the system. The Chimney Sweepers and Chimneys Regulation Act of 1864, though still years away, will begin to enforce stricter rules, limiting the use of children under 10 and requiring safer tools. These changes come too late for many, but they spark hope in those who hear of them. Ragged schools, too, offer a lifeline. One teacher, Miss Eliza, taught you to read simple words, opening a world of possibilities. You dream of becoming a clerk or a shop boy. Roles that seem impossibly distant, but burn brightly in your imagination. Your master, sensing the shifting tide, grows harsher, squeezing every penny from your labor before laws tighten further. But the bonds with your fellow sweeps sustain you. You share a stolen apple or a whispered plan to slip away to a street fair, where for a moment you're just a boy, not a tool. These small acts of defiance, hiding a halfpenny, singing a tune in the attic, build resilience, a quiet rebellion against a world that sees you as disposable. As your story closes, you stand on a rooftop, the London skyline sprawling before you, a mix of grand spires and squalid slums. You're older now, perhaps 12, too large for the smallest flues. Your master grumbles about your size, and you know your time as a sweep is nearing its end. What comes next is uncertain, perhaps a trade, perhaps the streets, but the skills of survival you've honed will carry you forward. The legacy of chimney sweeps like you is a quiet one, etched not in monuments but in the slow march of reform. By the 1870s, laws and mechanical brushes will largely replace climbing boys, sparing future generations your hardships. Your story, though forgotten by many, helped fuel those changes, a testament to the endurance of children in the face of a city's indifference. As you gaze at the stars through the smog, you wonder, how will the world remember the boys who kept its fires burning? And what small victories await those who outlast the soot? This reflection ripples forward. The resilience you showed echoes in modern labor laws, child welfare systems, and the value placed on every child's potential. Your struggle, though buried in history's quieter corners, reminds us that even the most overlooked lives shape the future in ways we cannot always see. Story 2. Scavenging the Thames. The life of Mudlarks. Picture yourself as a child, perhaps 8 years old, standing ankle-deep in the cold, viscous mud. The year is 1851, and the city around you pulses with the energy of the Industrial Revolution. Its docks crowded with ships unloading exotic goods for the Great Exhibition. But for you, a mudlark, murky lifeline, a place where survival hinges on what you can scavenge from its filthy banks. As the tide recedes each morning, you join dozens of other children, men and women, wading into the river's sludge to hunt for anything of value: coal, nails, rope, or even a lost coinitums that might fetch a penny or two to stave off hunger. The air is thick with the stench of sewage, rotting fish, and the coal smoke that blankets London. You wear little more than a tattered shirt and trousers, often too large, handed down from an older sibling, or scavenged from a rag pile. Shoes, if you have them, are mismatched and worn, offering scant protection against the sharp pebbles and broken glass hidden in the mud. Your hands, already calloused beyond your years, sift through the slime, feeling for the telltale shape of something sellable. The riverbed is treacherous, slippery with algae, littered with debris, and occasionally hiding deep pools that can swallow a child in seconds. You work from dawn until the tide turns, racing against the water's return. The Thames is London's artery, but also its sewer, carrying the refuse of 1 million people. What you find reflects the city's underbelly: a bent spoon, a lump of coal fallen from a barge, or a soggy length of rope that can be dried and sold to a marine store. These shops, scattered along the waterfront, are your lifeline, where gruff shopkeepers barter for your finds. A good day might earn you a few pence, enough for a stale loaf or a bowl of thin soup from a street vendor. A bad day means going to bed hungry, curled up in a damp corner of a slum tenement shared with your family or other orphans. Mudlarking is not just work, it's a way of life, passed down through generations in the poorest riverside communities like Wapping or Sutton. Many of you are children of dock workers, laundresses, or other mudlarks, born into a cycle of poverty where scavenging is as natural as breathing. You learn the rivers, moods/tides, currents, and hidden dangers through whispered advice. From older mudlarks, a boy named Jem, barely older than you, shows you how to spot the glint of metal in the mud or avoid the fever spots where sewage pools breed disease. Yet the river is unforgiving. Cold seeps into your bones, and cuts from rusty nails or oyster shells often fester with no access to doctors. Cholera and typhoid lurk in the water you wade through, claiming lives with terrifying speed. Still, you persist, driven by necessity, and the faint hope of a lucky Finda-dropped watch or a silver buckle that could change your fortunes for a week. The camaraderie among mudlarks offers solace. You share a laugh or a crust of bread, forming a ragged community bound by the river's edge. As you stand in the fading light, the tide creeping back, you clutch a small pile of finds, a nail, a scrap of cloth, a single coal lump. Will these be enough to keep you fed, or does the river hold greater secrets just beyond your reach? You're still that young mudlark, knee-deep in the Thames' chilly sludge, your eyes scanning the mud for anything that might mean survival in 1851 London. The river's rhythm governs your days, its tides dictating when you work and when you rest. But beyond the physical act of scavenging, there's a deeper struggle to maintain hope, to outwit the dangers, and to carve out a place in a city that barely notices you. The Thames is both your provider and your adversary, offering scraps of value while threatening to claim your health or life with every step. Each day blends into the next, a cycle of waiting, sifting, and bartering. You've learned the best spots near the docks, where barges unload carelessly, or by the wharves, where sailors toss unwanted bits overboard. The river's banks are a map of opportunity, but also of risk. You've seen older mudlarks pulled under by sudden currents or collapse from fever after working too long in wet clothes. Your own body bears the marks of this life: raw, cracked feet, a persistent cough, and a constant ache in your joints from the cold. Hunger gnaws at you, dulled only by the focus required to spot a glint of copper or a fragment of bone that can be sold for buttons. The mudlark community is your anchor. You and Jem, your mentor of sorts, share tricks, how to dry rope to make it sellable, or which shopkeepers offer fair prices. There's an unspoken code among you: don't steal another's find, but help if someone's stuck in the mud. Yet, competition is fierce. Older mudlarks, desperate for their own survival, might shove you aside for a good haul. You've learned to be quick, slipping through crowds to reach a promising patch first. The marine stores, dimly lit shops piled with nautical odds and ends, are where your finds become coins. A stern shopkeeper might give you a halfpenny for a handful of nails, eyeing you suspiciously as if you've stolen them. The city around you is a world apart. While Londoners flock to the Crystal Palace to marvel at steam engines and exotic displays, you're invisible, a small figure in the mud. Reformers occasionally speak of the poor, but their words rarely reach the riverbank. Charity schools or soup kitchens exist, but they're far from your patch, and pride or fear keeps you away. Your family, if you have one, relies on your earnings. A mother washing clothes or a father unloading ships might add their pennies to yours, but it's never enough. Orphans like you, with no one else, cling to the river even more fiercely, knowing it's all that stands between you and the workhouse. In rare moments, you dream of more. A sailor's tale of distant lands, overheard at the docks, sparks visions of escape, or perhaps a kind passerby tossing you a shilling instead of a penny, hints at a world where generosity exists. But the river always pulls you back, its muddy grip unrelenting. As you trudge home, your pockets heavy with a day's meager finds, you wonder, could a single lucky Finda gentleman's lost ring or a forgotten Persian your fate? Or is the Thames destined to hold you forever? You remain that mudlark, a child of the Thames in 1851, your life shaped by the river's ebb and flow. The question of whether a lucky find could free you from this existence lingers as you face the daily grind of scavenging. Now, as you stand on the muddy bank, clutching a small pile of coal and rope, the culmination of your efforts reveals both the limits and the quiet triumphs of your world. The river has been your teacher, your provider, and your peril, but it has also forged in you a resilience that few in London's glittering streets could match. Your days as a mudlark are numbered, not by choice, but by necessity. By age 12 or 13, many children grow too large or too weak to continue, pushed into other precarious trade-stock work, street selling, or petty crime. You've seen it with Jem, now a lanky youth, who's taken to hauling crates at the docks, his cough worsening with each passing month for you. The future looms uncertain. A lucky Finda silver spoon or a dropped coin might buy a week's comfort, but such windfalls are rare. Once you found a brass button, polished it to a shine, and earned a whole shilling, enough for a hot pie and a night's warmth. But the river gives sparingly, and most days yield only enough to survive. The Thames, though, is changing. The city's growth demands a cleaner river. By the late 1850s, the Great Stink will force Parliament to act, with Joseph Bazar sewers reducing the raw filth you wade through. These reforms, distant as they seem, hint at a world where mudlarking might fade, replaced by machines or regulated labor. For now, you rely on your wits, dodging constables who see you as a vagrant and navigating the river's dangers. Of a girl swept away by a sudden tide haunts you, a reminder to watch the waters shift. Your triumph is in endurance. Each day you return to the river, you defy its threats: disease, cold, and despair. The mudlark community, though rough, has taught you loyalty and resourcefulness. You've shared a fire with others on winter nights, swapping stories of near and small victories. These bonds, forged in mud, are your legacy, a quiet strength that carries you forward. Some mudlarks, you hear, become sailors or laborers, carrying the river's lessons into new lives. Others fall to illness or crime, their names lost to history's margins. As you stand on the bank, the tide rising, you look across the Thames, The city's lights reflect on the water, a world of wealth and progress you'll likely never know. Yet, your survival is a victory, a testament to the human spirit's ability to find meaning in the muck. Mudlarks like you, though invisible to most, helped sustain London's poorest, their finds feeding families and fueling small economies along the river. This story echoes in today's world, where resilience in the face of hardship remains a universal thread. The Mudlark's quiet labor reminds us that even the most overlooked lives shape a city's story, their struggles paving the way for reforms that protect the vulnerable. As you turn from the river, your small haul in hand, you wonder, what mark will your life leave on this ever-changing city? And how will history remember the children of the Thames? Story 3. Ragged Schools. Education for the poor. Imagine yourself as a 10-year-old child in 1850s London, threading through the crowded, grimy streets of Whitechapel, where the air smells of coal smoke and unwashed bodies. You're one of the countless poor children, perhaps an orphan, perhaps the child of a struggling costermonger who roam the city's slums, surviving on odd jobs like selling matches or sweeping crossings. But today, you're drawn to a narrow alley where a sign, faded and peeling, reads Ragged School. It's 1851, and these schools, scattered across London's poorest districts, offer a rare chance to learn letters and numbers, a flicker of hope in a life defined by want. You step inside, clutching a crust of bread, unsure what awaits, but curious about this place whispered about by other street children. The Ragged School is no grand institution, housed in a damp, converted stable or a crumbling warehouse. It's a stark contrast to the polished schoolrooms of the wealthy. The walls are bare, save for a few tattered Bible verses pinned up by volunteers. You sit on a rough bench among other children's, some barefoot, others in patched clothes, all thin and weary. The teacher, often a volunteer with more heart than training, stands at a cracked chalkboard, teaching the alphabet or basic sums. These schools, started by reformers like Lord Shaftesbury and Dr. Thomas Bernardo, aim to give children like you the skills to escape poverty's grip. Though the path is far from clear, your days are usually spent dodging carts and scavenging for pennies. So sitting still to learn feels strange. The lessons are simple: tracing letters in dust, reciting prayers, or adding single digits. But for you, whose world is the chaos of the streets, this structure is both foreign and fascinating. The teacher, perhaps a young woman named Miss Sarah, speaks gently, unlike the harsh shouts of your usual world. She offers a boiled potato or a sip of milk to those who stay through the lesson, a bribe that keeps you coming back. Hunger is a constant shadow, and the promise of food is as much a draw as the chance to read. The other children are a mix of mudlarks, sweeps, and hawkers, each with their own story of survival. You befriend a girl named Lizzie who sells violets at the market but dreams of being a seamstress. Together, you puzzle over words like cat and dog, giggling when you get them right. But learning is hard. Your hands are stiff from cold, and your mind often wanders to the coins you could be earning. Some children don't return, pulled back to the streets by necessity or mistrust of charity. Ragged schools are free, funded by philanthropists, but they carry a stigma. You're taught manners, cleanliness, and Bible stories, meant to make you respectable in a society that scorns the poor. Yet, The gap between this ideal and your reality, nights spent in a crowded tenement or under a bridge, is vast. As you trace your name on a slate, a small victory, you feel a spark of possibility. Could these lessons, scratched out in a dingy room, really open a door to a different life? Or will the streets always claim you back? You're still that 10-year-old in the ragged school, seated on a splintered bench in 1851 London, your slate smudged with chalk as you practice your letters. The dim room, lit by a single flickering lamp, is a haven from the chaos of Whitechapel's streets, but it's not without its challenges. The promise of learning to read, to write, to count feels like a fragile thread connecting you to a world beyond scavenging and survival. Yet, the pull of the streets is strong, and the lessons here, though free, demand a cost in time and trust that you and your fellow pupils weigh carefully each day. The ragged school operates on the goodwill of volunteers and donations, its resources stretched thin. Your teacher, Miss Sarah, often brings her own chalk or books, her face lined with fatigue but bright with determination. She teaches you to sound out words like bread and home, words that carry weight in your hungry, transient life. Arithmetic is harder. Counting pennies is one thing, but multiplying numbers feels like a puzzle with no immediate use. Still, you persist, driven by the rare praise or the small rewards of food. A bowl of porridge might be shared among 10 children, but it's enough to keep you coming back. Your friendship with Lizzie grows, a quiet alliance in this makeshift classroom. She shares her slate when yours breaks, and you help her memorize a hymn. But not all are so cooperative. Some boys, hardened by years on the streets, disrupt lessons, stealing pencils or mocking the teacher's efforts. The school is voluntary, and attendance is erratic. One day, a child might vanish, drawn back to selling papers or begging. You've seen it with Tommy, a boy who could read a whole page but left to join a gang of pickpockets, lured by quicker coins. Outside, London's slums press close. Your family, if you have one, might resent the hours you spend here, needing your earnings to pay for a shared bed in a lodging house. If you're an orphan, the school is a refuge, but only until dusk, when you must find a corner to sleep. The streets teach their own lessons: how to dodge a constable, haggle with a pawnbroker, or spot a drunkard's dropped coin. These skills feel more urgent than the alphabet, and you struggle to balance the two worlds. The ragged school's moral lessons, honesty, thrift, piety, clash with the survival instincts you've honed, creating a tension you can't quite name. Yet, there are moments of triumph. You write your name fully for the first time, the letters wobbly but yours. Miss Sarah smiles, and for a moment you see yourself as more than a street urchin. Rumors swirl of former pupils who became shop assistants or servants, their lives changed by these lessons. But the path is uncertain, and the school's limits are clear. There are no jobs waiting, no guarantees. As you leave the classroom, the cold air hits you, and the street's clamor drowns out the chalkboard's promise. Can these fragile skills, learned in a crumbling room, truly lift you above the slums? Or will poverty's weight pull you back before you can find out? You're still that child in the ragged school, clutching your slate in 1851 London, the faint hope of a better life kindled by the lessons you've struggled to learn. The question of whether these skills can free you from the streets lingers as you face the realities of your world. The ragged school has given you tools, letters, numbers, a sense of possibility, but the path forward is fraught with obstacles. As you sit through another lesson, tracing words under Miss Sarah's watchful eye, you begin to see both the limits and the quiet power of this fragile education, and what it might mean for your future. The school's impact is slow but real. You can now read simple signs like bread to D at the baker's and count change accurately, skills that set you apart from other street children. These abilities earn you a job running errands for a grocer, fetching a few extra pennies for your family or yourself. But the ragged school's reach is limited. It can't erase the hunger, the cold, or the overcrowding of your tenement life. Many pupils, like Lizzie, drift away, pulled by the need to earn, or by parents who see no value in book learning. Inspired by the school's teachings, dream of trades, carpentry, dressmaking, but find apprenticeships scarce without connections. The reformers behind these schools, figures like Bernardo, envision a world where education lifts the poor into respectability. By the 1860s, their efforts will grow, with more schools and even boarding houses for orphans, offering stability you can only imagine. For now, though, your victories are small. A correctly spelled word, a shared smile with Miss Sarah, or a moment of pride when you help a younger child with their sums. These moments build resilience, a belief that you might be more than the streets allow. Yet, danger looms, disease, crime, or the workhouse claim many. And you've seen classmates vanish, their fates unspoken but felt as you grow. Perhaps 213, the school becomes a memory. You're too old for its benches, pushed into the adult world of labor or scavenging. Your literacy, though basic, gives you an edge. Perhaps you become a messenger or a shop boy, roles that demand reading. Others aren't so lucky, falling into gangs or illness, their brief education no match for poverty's pull. But your time in the ragged school has left a mark, a quiet strength that carries you through. You share what you've learned, teaching a younger sibling to read, passing on the gift. Standing outside the school one last time, you look at the alley where it began. The lessons, the warmth, the hope, they've shaped you, even if the slums remain your home. Ragged schools, though flawed, planted seeds for change, contributing to laws like the 1870 Education Act, which made schooling compulsory for future generations. Your story, one of countless, helped prove that even the poorest children could learn, shifting society's view of the undeserving poor. This legacy resonates today in systems that strive to educate all, no matter their start. As you walk away, your slate tucked under your arm, you wonder, how far can these small lessons carry you? And what will the world make of the children it once ignored? Story 4. Factory Children. Toil in the mills. Picture yourself as a 9-year-old child in 1840s London, standing at the gates of a textile mill in the industrial district of Bethnal Green. It's 1845, and the city hums with the clatter of machinery and the hiss of steam, a testament to Britain's industrial might. But for you, a factory child, this world is one of endless toil, where your small hands and nimble fingers are prized for tasks adults cannot do. Dawn is barely breaking as you join a stream of other children, some as young as 6, filing into the mill. Your family, scraping by in a cramped slum, depends on the few shillings you earn each week. a necessity that pulls you from the fleeting freedom of childhood into the grinding rhythm of the factory. The mill is a cavernous space, its air thick with cotton dust that clogs your throat and stings your eyes. Rows of spinning mules, massive machines that twist raw cotton into threads stretch across the floor, their metal arms jerking in a deafening roar. You're a piecer, tasked with darting beneath these machines to tie broken threads, a job requiring speed and precision. Your slight frame lets you slip into tight spaces where adults cannot fit, but the work is perilous. The machines never stop, and a moment's inattention could cost you a finger or worse. Overseers, wielding straps or sticks, patrol the aisles, quick to punish slowness or chatter with a sharp blow. Your day begins at 5 a.m. and stretches to 7 p.m., sometimes longer during peak production. Breakfast is a hurried bite of bread, eaten standing, and dinner, if provided, is a watery stew, gulped down in a brief break. The heat is stifling, the windows sealed to keep the cotton fibers moist, and the floor is slick with oil and dust. You've learned to move quickly, dodging the spinning mule's reach, your fingers raw from twisting threads. Other children scavenge loose cotton from the floor or carry heavy bobbins to the weavers, their faces pale and drawn from exhaustion. You're not alone in this struggle. A girl named Mary, barely older than you, shows you how to knot threads faster, her own hands scarred from years at the mill. Friendships form in stolen moments, whispered words over the machine's din, but the overseer's watchful eye limits talk. Many children come from families too poor to survive without their wages. Others are orphans, sent from workhouses to earn their keep. The Factory Act of 1833 limits children under 9 from working and caps your hours at 48 per week. But enforcement is spotty, and mill owners often flout the rules, forging ages or bribing inspectors. The physical toll is relentless. Your back aches from stooping, your lungs burn from the dust. An accident crushed limbs or scalps caught in machinery, a constant threat. Yet you push on, driven by the need to contribute to your family's survival. As the whistle signals the end of another grueling day, you stumble into the twilight, your body weary but your mind racing. Can this endless cycle of toil offer any hope for a different future, or will the mill's rhythm define your life forever? You're still that 9-year-old piecer in the Bethnal Green textile mill, your days consumed by the relentless clatter of spinning mules in 1845 London. The question of whether this grueling work holds any hope for a better future gnaws at you as you navigate the factory's dangers. The mill is your world now, a place where time is measured by the hum of machinery and the ache in your bones. Each day deepens the marks of this life on your body, your spirit, and the fragile dreams you dare to hold, but it also reveals the resilience that keeps you and your fellow child workers moving forward. Your routine is unchanging. Up before dawn, a quick gulp of tea or porridge if you're lucky, then into the mill's suffocating heat. The cotton dust settles everywhere, coating your hair and skin, seeping into your lungs with every breath. You dart under the mules, tying broken threads with fingers that bleed from constant friction. The overseer's strap is a constant threat, and you've learned to keep your head down, working through hunger and fatigue. Mary, your friend, teaches you to hum softly to stay alert, a trick to fend off the days that invites accidents. You've Seen what happens when attention slips. A boy named Will lost 2 fingers last month, sent back to the workhouse with no means to earn. The mill's hierarchy is clear. Older workers, often teenagers who started as you did, operate larger machines, their faces hardened by years of toil. They share tales of life beyond the millsome dream of becoming weavers, others of escaping to the countryside, but most stay trapped by poverty or injury. You and Mary swap stories too, whispering about a fair you once saw, with jugglers and gingerbread stalls, a world that feels impossibly distant. These moments of connection are precious but brief. Talking too long risks a beating or docked wages. Outside the mill, London's industrial sprawl offers little relief. Your family's tenement, shared with a dozen others, is a damp, crowded room where sleep is fitful. Your wages, perhaps 6 shillings a week, go to rent and food, leaving nothing for dreams of schooling or play. Some children attend Sunday schools where they learn to read hymns, but your Sundays are for mending clothes or scavenging extra work. Reformers speak of better conditions. Lord Ashley pushes for shorter hours, but change is slow, and mill owners resist, claiming children like you are essential to their profits. The physical strain is relentless. Your growth is stunted, your chest tight from dust-induced coughs, and exhaustion makes your steps unsteady. Yet you adapt, learning to anticipate the mule's rhythm, to hide small injuries, to avoid being sent away. The mill teaches survival, but at a cost. Your childhood slips away, replaced by a mechanical routine. As you leave the factory one evening, the city's smog heavy around you, a question burns. Can the skills and strength you're building here ever lead to something more? Or will the mill's grip hold you until it breaks you? You're still that young piecer, now perhaps 11, in the Bethnal Green Mill of 1845. Your life shaped by the unyielding demands of the spinning mules. The question of whether this toil can lead to something more haunts you as you face the daily grind. The mill has molded you, your hands quick, your instincts sharp, but it has also taken its toll, leaving you to wonder what lies beyond these walls. As you knot another thread, the end of your childhood in the factory looms, and with it, the faint possibility of a different path, forged by resilience and the slow winds of change. The mill's dangers have claimed many you remember. Mary's cough worsening. Last week she didn't return, likely felled by the mill fever that doctors link to cotton dust. Accidents are common: crushed hands, broken bones, and those too injured to work are cast out, often to the workhouse or the streets. You've grown taller, your frame less suited for piecing, and the overseer eyes you warily, knowing you'll soon be too big for the job. Some children move to heavier tasks, like tending looms, but the pay is barely better, and the hours remain brutal. Yet, there are signs of hope. The Factory Act of 1844, though poorly enforced, mandates schooling for child workers, and you've attended a few evening classes, learning to read simple words and count beyond your fingers. These lessons, held in a cramped room near the mill, spark dreams of becoming a clerk or shopkeeper, roles that seem fantastical but possible. Your quick hands and sharp memory, honed by years of dodging machinery, give you an edge. You've saved a few pennies, hidden from your family's desperate needs, hoping to buy a clean shirt for a future job interview. The mill has taught you more than thread knotting. You've learned to navigate authority, to endure pain, and to find joy in small moments, shared joke with a coworker, a rare half-day off to watch boats on the Thames. These experiences build a quiet strength, a resilience that carries you through loss and exhaustion. Reformers are gaining ground. By the 1850s, stricter laws will limit child labor further, and machines will replace some of your tasks, easing the burden on future generations. As you leave the mill one evening, the whistle's shrill cry fading, you stand at the gates, the city's din around you. You're no longer the child who entered years ago. You're stronger, savvier, but marked by the mill's toll-stooped shoulders, a persistent cough. Some of your peers will stay trapped by poverty, but others, like you, will seek new paths, perhaps as laborers or servants, carrying the mill's lessons into the world. Your small victories, reading a notice, saving a coin hint at a future beyond the machines. The factory, children's story shaped history's course. Your labor fueled Britain's industrial rise, but your suffering spurred reforms that protected later generations. Today, child labor laws and universal education owe a debt to your unseen struggles. As you walk into the smoggy twilight, you wonder, how will the world you helped build remember the children who toiled in its mills, and what legacy will your resilience leave? Navigating the labyrinthine alleys of St. Giles, one of the city's most notorious slums. It's 1852, and the air around you is heavy with the stench of open sewers, rotting refuse, and the smoke from countless coal fires. You live in a tenement, a crumbling building packed with families like yours, where survival is a daily negotiation with poverty and overcrowding. Home is not a place of comfort, but a cramped, damp room shared with your parents, siblings, and often strangers, all squeezed into a space barely fit for one. As you step through the creaking door after a day of selling matches or scavenging, you enter a world where resilience is forged in the smallest acts of endurance. The tenement looms over the narrow street, its walls stained with soot and leaning precariously, as if one strong gust could topple it. Your family's room, perhaps 10 feet square, is on the 3rd floor, reached by a rickety staircase littered with debris. Inside, the space is a jumble of makeshift beds, straw pallets, or sacks stuffed with rags pushed against damp walls. Where mold creeps in green patches, a single cracked window, if it opens at all, lets in more cold than light, and the air is thick with the smells of unwashed bodies and boiled cabbage. A small hearth, if you're lucky, holds a weak fire, fueled by scavenged wood or coal scraps you've collected. Your family shares this room with another, perhaps a widow and her children, doubling the chaos. Privacy is a luxury you've never known. Bodies, sleep, head-to-toe, and arguments or coughing fits echo through the night. Your mother, a washerwoman, scrubs clothes by candlelight, while your father, if he's present, might be a casual laborer, his wages erratic. You and your siblings contribute what you can. Pennies from street work or bits of food scavenged from market meals are meager. A pot of watery soup stretched with potatoes or bread shared among too many mouths. The slum is a community, albeit a desperate one. Neighbors, bound by shared hardship, barter goods or watch each other's children. You've befriended a boy named Ned, who lives downstairs and teaches you to mend shoes with scraps, a skill that earns a few extra coins. But danger is ever present. Disease spreads quickly in these conditions: cholera, typhus, and smallpox. Claim lives with terrifying ease. The water pump, shared by dozens of families, is often contaminated, and sanitation is a bucket in the corner, emptied when someone finds the energy. Despite the squalor, there are moments of humanity. Your mother hums a tune as she works, and Ned's sister tells stories of a village life she barely remembers. These glimpses of warmth keep you going, but the weight of the tenement presses hard. Reformers like Charles Dickens write of slums, like yours, stirring sympathy among the wealthy. But change feels distant as you curl up on your pallet, the sounds of the slum around you. You wonder, can this crowded, crumbling room ever feel like a home, or will its walls forever trap you? In survival's grip, you're still that 12-year-old in the St. Giles tenement. Your life, a delicate balance between survival and the faint hope of something better in 1852 London. The cramped room you call home, with its moldy walls and shared pallets, is both a refuge and a burden. Each day demands ingenuity, from finding food to dodging the diseases that stalk the crowded alleys. Yet it's the small acts of connection and resilience that keep you tethered to this world, even as it threatens to wear you down. Mornings begin early, the room stirring with coughs and murmurs as families prepare for the day. You slip out to sell matches or run errands, your earnings vital to keep the landlord from evicting your family. The tenement's rent, though low, is a constant pressure. A single missed payment could send you to the streets or the workhouse. Your mother's washing brings in a few pence, but it's never enough. And your father's irregular work at the docks adds uncertainty. You've learned to stretch every resource, boiling bones for broth, mending clothes with scraps, or bartering with neighbors for a candle stub. The slums community is your lifeline. Ned, your friend downstairs, shares a trick for patching shoes with tar, and you teach him to spot overripe fruit at the market, cheap enough to buy. These exchanges build a fragile network of support, but tensions run high. Fights erupt over stolen food or space, and the landlord's agent, a grim man with a ledger, is quick to threaten. Disease is a constant shadow. Last month, a fever swept through, taking Ned's little sister, her small body carried out in a sack. You avoid the pump when rumors of cholera spread, but clean water is a distant dream. Life in the tenement is a study in adaptation. You've learned to sleep through the noise of arguments or rats skittering across the floor. Your mother's stories of her childhood in Kent, told in rare, quiet moments, spark dreams of open fields, though you've never seen them. Sundays might bring a visit to a mission hall where a preacher offers soup and prayers, but the sermons feel hollow against the reality of your hunger. Charity is scarce, and reformers' promises of better housing seem like fairy tales when you return to your damp, crowded room. Yet there are moments of defiance. You and Ned sneak to the riverbank to skip stones, laughing until an adult shoos you back. These fleeting joys remind you that you're still a child, despite the burdens. As you lie on your pallet at night, the tenement's creaks blending with your mother's soft humming, you cling to the skills you're learning: mending, bartering, surviving. Could these small strengths, honed in the slum's chaos, ever lead you to a life beyond these walls? Or will the tenement's weight always pull you back? You're still that 12-year-old in the St. Giles tenement. Your days shaped by the relentless demands of survival in 1852 London. The question of whether your skills can lift you beyond these crumbling walls burns as you face the daily grind of slum life. The tenement has been your teacher, imparting lessons in resilience and resourcefulness, but also marking you with the scars of poverty and loss. As you grow, the future looms uncertain, yet tinged with the faint hope that your endurance might carve a path to something more. Even as the slum's grip tightens, the tenement's toll is evident. Your health, like that of many, is fragile. A persistent cough hints at the lung troubles common in these damp, smoky rooms. Last winter, a neighbor's baby died of fever, a reminder of the diseases that thrive here. Your family clings to survival, but losses mount. Siblings too weak to work, or neighbors evicted for unpaid rent. Yet you've grown adept at navigating this world. You haggle better at the market, repair shoes with Ned, and know which alleys to avoid after dark. These skills, born of necessity, are your currency, offering a slim chance at a trade or a better job. Change is stirring, though it feels distant. Reformers like Edwin Chadwick push for sanitation improvements, and by the 1860s, new laws will begin to clear slums and build better housing. For now, you rely on the slums community. When your mother falls ill, a neighbor shares broth. When you find a halfpenny, you split it with Ned. These acts of solidarity, though small, sustain you, creating a web of mutual aid that holds the tenement together. But the workhouse looms for those who falter, and you've seen families vanish into its grim walls, their belongings sold for pennies. As you approach 13, you're too old for match selling, pushed toward harder work, perhaps carting coal or cleaning houses. Your skills give you an edge. A shopkeeper notices your quick hands and offers occasional work, a step above the streets. Others aren't so fortunate, turning to theft or worse. Their lives swallowed by the slum's underbelly. Your mother's stories, once a comfort, now fuel a quiet resolve to escape, to find a place where air is clean and space is your own standing. In the tenement's doorway, the alleys clamor around you. You see the city beyond, a world of wealth and possibility you've glimpsed but never touched. Your survival, and that of countless others, helped fuel London's growth. Your unseen labor supporting its markets and streets. The slum's hardships spurred reforms that shaped modern housing and public health, a legacy born from your resilience. As you step back into the crowded room, your mother's voice soft in the dark. You wonder, will the strength you've built in this broken place carry you to a new life, or will the slum's shadow linger in all you become? Story 6. Street games and simple pleasures. Imagine yourself as an 11-year-old child in 1850s London, weaving through the bustling streets of Spitalfields, where the clatter of carts and cries of vendors fill the air. It's 1853, and you're one of the countless poor children who call the city's slums home, scraping by with odd jobs like carrying bags or sweeping crossings. Life is hard, defined by hunger and the constant hustle for pennies. But in the rare moments when work pauses, you find joy in the street games and simple pleasures that transform London's gritty alleys into playgrounds. As you dodge a passing horse cart, you hear the laughter of other children playing nearby. And for a fleeting moment, you're not just a worker, but a child, chasing a spark of freedom. The streets are your domain, a maze of cobbled lanes and muddy corners where you and your friends create games from nothing. With no toys or fields, you make do with what's at hand: a stick, a pebble, or a bit of chalk. Hopscotch is a favorite too. Scratch a grid on the pavement with a stone and toss a shard of pottery, hopping on one foot to avoid the lines. Nearby, boys play tipcat, striking a small piece of wood with a stick to send it flying, cheering as it sails over a pile of rubbish. These games cost nothing, a necessity in a world where every penny goes to food or rent. Your playmates are a ragtag crew, mudlarks, match sellers, or factory children like you, all stealing moments between chores. You've befriended a girl named Annie, who's quick with a jump rope made from scavenged twine. Together, you chant rhymes, some old, some made up about sailors, queens, or the dreaded workhouse, your voices rising above the street's din. These games are more than fun. They're a way to claim space in a city that sees you as little more than labor. Adults sometimes scowl, shooing you from busy thoroughfares, but in quieter corners, you're kings and queens of your own making. The games teach you skills, balance, speed, cunning that help you navigate the streets. Dodging a constable during a rowdy game of tag sharpens your reflexes for avoiding trouble later. You learn to share, too, passing a hoop made from a barrel ring or splitting a found apple with Annie. But play is fleeting. Hunger or an angry parent can pull you back to work in an instant. The slums offer no parks, and the Thames' muddy banks are as close as you get to open space, despite the hardship. These moments of play are a lifeline, a reminder of childhood in a world that demands you grow up fast. You hear whispers of reformers wanting to give children like you schools or playgrounds, but such ideas feel distant when your family needs your earnings. As you kick a rag ball down an alley, laughter echoing, you wonder, can these stolen moments of joy, carved from the city's chaos, sustain you through the grind of survival? Or are they just a fleeting escape from an unyielding world? You're still that 11-year-old in Spital Fields, finding fleeting joy in the street games that punctuate your hardscrabble life in 1853 London. The question of whether these moments can sustain you through the daily grind lingers as you race through an alley, chasing a hoop with Annie. The streets, crowded with vendors and laborers, are your playground. But they're also a battleground where survival demands constant vigilance. These games, though simple, are a rebellion against the weight of poverty, offering you and your friends a chance to reclaim childhood, even if just for an hour before the next chore calls. Your favorite game today is Ring Taw, a circle drawn in the dirt where you flick marbles, bits of clay or glass scavenged from the Thames banks, trying to knock others out. Annie's better at it, her aim sharp from years of dodging trouble. You trade marbles as prizes, hoarding them like treasure, though they're worthless to anyone but you. Other children join in, some playing blind man's buff, stumbling with a rag over their eyes, giggling as they tag each other. These games knit you together, creating a community that softens the slum's harsh edges. You learn each other's strengths, Annie's speed, a boy named Jack's knack for inventing new rules. But play is never free from risk. A misemmed stone can break a shopkeeper's window, earning a cuff or a chase. Older boys, hardened by the streets, sometimes demand your marbles or disrupt games for sport. The streets themselves are hazardous muddy ruts, stray dogs, or drunkards who might lash out. You've learned to play near quieter corners, like the yard behind a derelict tavern, where you're less likely to be shooed away. Still, the call of work is ever present. Your mother might yell for you to fetch water, or a hawker offers a penny to carry his wares. Cutting your game short, these moments of play teach you more than fun. Hopscotch hones your balance, useful for dodging carts or running from trouble. Chanting rhymes sharpens your memory, and bartering marbles builds your knack for negotiation, skills you use when haggling at the market. Sometimes, a kind passerby tosses you a halfpenny for your laughter, a rare gift that buys a hot potato shared with Annie. But the slums offer no permanence. A favorite play spot might be claimed by a new tenement or cleared by constables enforcing order. As the sun dips, you pause, breathless, from a game of leapfrog. The city's clamor surrounds you, a reminder of the work, waiting matches to sell, floors to sweep. Reformers talk of schools, but they're far from your alley, and play is your only classroom. You and Annie dream of a day when you might play without fear of interruption. But for now, these games are your defiance, your joy. As you toss a pebble in the fading light, you wonder, can these bursts of childhood, snatched from the streets, build a strength that lasts? Or will the city's demands always steal them away? You're still that 11-year-old in Spitalfields, your heart lifted by the games that carve out moments of joy in 1853 London's slums. The question of whether these fleeting pleasures can build lasting strength burns as you kick a rag ball with Annie. The street's chaos fading for a moment. These games have been your rebellion, your classroom, your refuge. But as you grow, the city's demands press harder, threatening to eclipse the childhood you fought to preserve. The end of these play-filled days looms, yet they've shaped you in ways that will echo beyond the alleys, into a future you can barely imagine. The games are fewer now as you edge toward 12. Work selling papers, running errands takes more of your time, and hunger leaves you too tired to chase hoops. Annie, too, is pulled away, helping her mother hawk fish at the market. Yet, the skills you've gained from play remain. Your quick reflexes dodge a cart. Your sharp tongue negotiates a better price for a loaf. The rhymes you chanted taught you rhythm and memory, helping you recall orders or directions. These small victories, born in games, give you an edge in the harsh world of the slums. The community of playmates has been your anchor, but it's fraying. Jack, the rule maker, joined a gang lured by promises of easy coins. Others fall to illness, cholera, or fever. Constant threats in these crowded streets. You and Annie cling to your games when you can, stealing an hour to play. Follow my leader through the alleys, laughing as you mimic each other's leaps. These moments remind you of who you are, beyond the laborer or beggar the city sees. But the streets are changing. New factories and tenements swallow your play spots, and constables crack down on loitering children. Reformers are starting to notice children like you. By the 1870s, laws will mandate schooling and playgrounds will emerge. But for now, your education is the street, your joy self-made. You dream of a life where play isn't stolen, perhaps as a shop boy, with Sundays free for fairs. Your resilience, honed in games, carries you forward. You've learned to find light in the darkest corners, to laugh despite hunger. Some playmates will fall to crime or disease, but others, like you, will use these skills to become laborers, hawkers, or even artisans, carrying the spirit of the streets into new lives. Standing in an alley, tossing a final pebble with Annie, you feel the weight of growing up. The games of your childhood fueled London's underbelly, teaching survival and camaraderie that shaped a generation. They laid the groundwork for reforms that gave later children parks and schools, a legacy of joy in hardship. As you pocket your last marble, the city's din rising, you wonder, will the strength and laughter of these games carry you into a brighter future? Or will they remain a fleeting echo of a childhood reclaimed? Story 7. Battling Disease. Health Challenges for Young Victorians. Imagine yourself as a 10-year-old child in 1850s London, huddled in a damp corner of a Whitechapel tenement, your breath shallow and your body feverish. It's 1854, and the city around you is a thriving hub of industry and trade. But for you, a child of the slums, it's a battleground where disease is a constant enemy. The air is thick with coal smoke and the stench of open sewers, and your home a cramped room shared with your family and others offers little protection from the illnesses that stalk the poor. As you wrap a thin shawl around your shoulders, a cough racks your chest, a reminder of the precarious health that defines your life and those of countless other young Victorians. Your world is one of survival, where every day brings the risk of sickness. Cholera, typhus, and smallpox are whispered fears, their names as familiar as the street vendor's cries. The water you drink, drawn from a shared pump in the courtyard, is often cloudy with filth, tainted by nearby cesspools. Your family boils it when they can afford fuel, but most days you sip it cautiously, knowing it might carry death. Food is scarce bread, potatoes, or a bit of broth, leaving you weak and vulnerable to infection. Your mother, a seamstress, tends to you when she can, but her own exhaustion and the demands of work leave little time for care. The tenement is a breeding ground for disease. With a dozen people crammed into a single room, coughing and sneezing spread illness quickly. Last month, a neighbor's baby died of summer diarrhea, a common killer of infants in the slums. You've seen smallpox scars on your friend Sam, a mudlark who scavenges the Thames, and you dread the fever that could leave you marked or worse. Doctors are a luxury your family can't afford. Instead, you rely on folk remedies, herbs from a market stall or a poultice of bread and vinegar passed down by neighbors. You spend your days working as a crossing sweeper, clearing mud for pennies, but illness often forces you to rest, costing precious earnings. The streets are no safer than home. The London fog, thick with coal dust, irritates your lungs, and open drains breed flies that carry disease. Yet, you've learned to be resilient, sharing what little you have with Sam and other children, swapping tips on staying warm or avoiding bad water. Charity missions sometimes offer soup or blankets, but their reach is limited, and pride keeps many families away. Reformers like Edwin Chadwick are beginning to link disease to sanitation, but their reports rarely change your daily life. As you lie on your straw pallet, the fever rising, you cling to your mother's stories of a healthier life in the country. Can the small acts of survival, boiling water, sharing remedies, keep you and your friends alive? Or will the slums, invisible killers, claim you before you can grow? You're still that 10-year-old in Whitechapel, your body weakened by fever as you navigate the perilous health landscape of 1854 London. The question of whether your small acts of survival can outwit the slums' diseases lingers as you cough into your shawl, the tenement's damp walls closing in. Life here is a constant dance with illness, where every choice drinking from the pump, eating scraps, or sharing a crowded bed carries risk. Yet, you and your fellow children fight on, learning to adapt, to endure, and to find hope in the face of relentless threats to your fragile health. Each day tests your resilience. Your mother tries to keep you strong, brewing weak tea or rubbing your chest with goose fat, a remedy whispered by a neighbor. But the tenement's conditions undermine her efforts. The single privy, shared by dozens, overflows into the courtyard, and rats scurry across your pallet at night, carrying fleas that spread typhus. Sam, your mudlark friend, shows you how to wrap rags around your feet to keep cuts clean, a trick learned from older scavengers. These small strategies, avoiding the worst pumps, eating only cooked food, become your armor, though they're often not enough. The community of the slums is both a blessing and a curse. You and Sam share what you have: a crust of bread, a sip of cleanish water, but closeness spreads sickness faster. When cholera struck last year, entire families vanished, their belongings left in the alley. You've learned to watch for signs: a friend's sudden pallor, a neighbor's shivering. When Sam's sister fell ill, you helped carry her to a charity hospital, a grim place where the poor are more likely to die than recover. Yet, you keep moving, sweeping crossings when your fever eases, knowing your pennies by the coal that keeps your family warm. The city's response to disease is slow. The great stink of 1858, when the Thames stench will force Parliament to act, is years away, and for now, you rely on instinct and luck. Missionaries sometimes visit, offering prayers or broth, but their help is fleeting, and many distrust their motives, fearing they'll lure children to workhouses. Your mother clings to hope, telling you of vaccination drives against smallpox, though the cost keeps them out of reach. You dream of a day when you're strong enough to work steadily, perhaps as a shop boy, free from the constant threat of fever. As you rest, your breath uneven, the tenement's noises blend into a lullaby of survival coughs, cries, your mother's soft humming. You've learned to fight disease with what little you have, but the cost is steep. Friends lost, strength sapped. As the fever spikes, you wonder, can your resilience and the slum's fragile community hold back the tide of illness? Or will the next outbreak sweep you away before you can claim a healthier future? You're still that 10-year-old in Whitechapel, your fever finally breaking as you lie on your pallet in 1854 London. The question of whether your resilience can outlast the slums' diseases hangs heavy as you regain strength. Your mother's tired eyes watching over you. The tenement, with its damp walls and crowded bodies, has been both your battleground and your school, teaching you to fight illness with meager resources. As you rise to face another day, the toll of this life is clear, but so is the quiet strength you've built and the faint hope of a future where health isn't a daily gamble. Survival has come at a cost. Your body bears the marks of illness scars from a brush with smallpox, a persistent cough from the damp air. Sam, your friend, wasn't as lucky. His fever turned to typhus, and he's gone, a loss that leaves a hole in your small world. Yet, you've learned to endure boiling water when you can, sharing remedies with neighbors, and avoiding the worst of the tainted pumps. These skills, honed in crisis, give you a chance to keep working, sweeping crossings or running errands, your pennies keeping your family afloat. The slums community has been your lifeline. When you were sick, a neighbor shared a precious onion for broth, and your mother's sewing brought in enough to buy coal. But the losses mount, families broken by cholera, children sent to workhouses when parents die. As you grow, perhaps, to 12, you take on more work, your health fragile, but your will strong. You dream of a trade, perhaps, a baker's apprentice where clean air and steady meals might keep illness at bay. A rare visit to a mission school teaches you to read, simple words, sparking hope of a better job. Change is coming, though it's slow. The 1854 cholera outbreak, traced to a contaminated pump by Dr. John Snow, will push reforms. And by the 1860s, sewers and cleaner water will begin to tame disease. For now, you rely on the slums, wisdom herbs, rest, and luck. Your survival is a quiet victory, a testament to the resilience of children who face death daily. Some of your peers will fall to illness or poverty, but others, like you, will carry these lessons forward, becoming laborers or hawkers, their strength forged in the tenements, standing in the courtyard, the pump dripping nearby. You feel the weight of your survival. The slums children, though invisible to the wealthy, helped drive the push for public health, their suffering spurring laws that protect future generations. Your fight against disease shaped a city, a nation, a world that values clean water and care. As you head to work, your mother's hopeful glance following you, you wonder, will the strength you've gained in this sickly world carry you to a healthier life, or will the slum's shadow linger in every breath you take? Story 8. Inside the Workhouse. Institutional life for orphans. Picture yourself as a 9-year-old orphan in 1850s London, standing before the looming gates of the Lambeth Workhouse, a grim fortress of brick and iron in the city's south. It's 1855, and the bustling capital thrives on industry and trade. But for you, a child without family, the workhouse is both refuge and prison. Your parents succumbed to cholera last year, leaving you to fend for yourself until the parish sent you here. As you step inside, clutching a tattered bundle of clothes, the heavy door clangs shut, sealing you into a world of rigid rules and relentless toil. The workhouse, meant to provide for the destitute, shapes your days with a harsh routine that tests your spirit. The interior is bleak, its walls bare and damp, the air thick with the smells of boiled gruel and lye soap. You're led to the children's ward, a long, narrow room where dozens of other orphans sleep on hard pallets, their faces pale and drawn. The workhouse master, a stern man with a ledger, assigns you a number and a uniform course, ill-fitting clothes that mark you as a pauper. Your days begin at dawn with a bell's clang, followed by prayers and a breakfast of thin porridge, barely enough to dull your hunger. The Poor Law of 1834 designed workhouses to deter idleness, making life inside deliberately harsh to discourage dependency. Your work is grueling for a child. Boys like you pick oakum, unraveling old ropes into fibers for ship caulking or breakstones for road building, tasks that leave your hands raw and bleeding. Girls sew or scrub floors, their fingers pricked by needles or chapped by cold water. The overseers, often former inmates themselves, enforce discipline with a switch, and talking during work risks a day without food. You've befriended a boy named Tom, a wiry lad who teaches you to hide small bits of bread to eat later, a trick to survive the hunger that gnaws constantly. Life here is a test of endurance. Disease spreads quickly in the crowded wards, coughs echo at night, and smallpox scars mark many faces. The workhouse offers basic schooling, writing, and Bible lessons, but only for a few hours, and the teacher, overworked, has little patience. You learn to write your name, a small victory, but the lessons feel distant when survival demands your focus. The other children are your only solace, sharing whispered stories of life before the workhouse, of parents or streets where they once ran free. Reformers like Charles Dickens decry the workhouse system, but their words rarely reach you. The Guardians claim this life builds character, preparing you for labor. But the endless tasks and strict rules feel like punishment for being poor. As you lie on your pallet, the ward's silence broken by a child's cough, you cling to Tom's tales of escape apprenticeships or distant relatives. Can this rigid, joyless place ever offer a path to a better life, or will its walls forever define your world? You're still that 9-year-old orphan in the Lambeth workhouse, your days governed by the relentless routine of 1855 London. The question of whether this bleak institution can offer a path to a better life lingers as you unravel another strand of oakum, your fingers sore and your stomach growling. The workhouse is a world of order and punishment, designed to break the spirit as much as sustain the body. But you and your fellow orphans find ways to endure, carving out small acts of defiance and connection in a place that seeks to strip away your individuality. Each morning begins the same: a bell at 5 a.m., a cold wash in a shared basin, and prayers in a drafty hall. Breakfast is gruel, sometimes with a scrap of bread, but never enough to fill you. You're assigned to stone breaking today, hammering rocks until your arms ache, the dust stinging your eyes. The overseers watch closely, quick to bark orders, or swing a strap for slowness. Tom, your friend, works nearby, his quick grin a rare light in the gloom. He shows you how to pace yourself, saving energy for the long hours. A lesson learned from older boys who've survived years here, the workhouses. Rules are suffocating. Silence is enforced during work and meals, and friendships are discouraged. But you and Tom whisper plans in the dormitories, shadows dreams of running away to join a ship or find a trade. Other children share similar hopes, their stories of lost families or street life binding you together. Yet betrayal lurks. Some, desperate for favor, snitch on talkers, earning extra food while others go hungry. Disease remains a constant threat. Last week, a girl in your ward died of fever, her palate cleared before dawn. Schooling offers a sliver of hope. A few hours each week, you practice letters and sums, your pencil shaky but determined. You've learned to read simple Bible verses, and Tom dreams of becoming a clerk. though such jobs feel impossibly distant. The workhouse claims to prepare you for life. But the reality is, harsher. Many children are sent to factories or domestic service, their wages claimed by the guardians. Some are adopted by strangers, a fate whispered to be worse than staying outside. London's reformers are stirring. Reports of workhouse cruelties reach newspapers, and figures like Dickens call for change. But inside, you feel only the weight of routine. You and Tom hide a stolen apple, a rare treat shared in secret, a small rebellion against the workhouse's grip. These moments of camaraderie keep you going. But the future is uncertain as you hammer another stone, the dust clouding your vision. You wonder, can the skills and bonds forged in this cold place lead to freedom? Or will the workhouse's shadow follow you always? You're still that 9-year-old orphan in the Lambeth workhouse. Now nearing 11, your body and spirit tested by the unyielding routine of 1855 London. The question of whether this place can lead to freedom burns as you trudge through another day of stone-breaking, your hands calloused but your resolve hardened. The workhouse has been a crucible, forging resilience and cunning, but also leaving scars that mark you as one of its children. As you face the prospect of leaving, the bonds you've built and the skills you've gained offer a faint hope of a life beyond these walls. Though the path remains uncertain, the workhouse's grip is loosening as you grow. At 12, you'll age out of the children's ward, likely sent to an apprenticeship or domestic service. Tom, now taller and thinner, was sent to a factory last month, his parting grin a promise to find you later. His absence stings, but you carry his lessons. How to hide food, dodge the overseer's strap, and keep hope alive. Your reading, though basic, lets you decipher signs or simple contracts, a skill that sets you apart from other orphans. You dream of becoming a messenger or shop boy, roles that seem distant but possible with your workhouse-honed discipline. Disease and despair have claimed many. A fever swept through last winter, taking half a dozen children, their palates cleared without ceremony. You've survived by sharing remedies, a bit of stolen mint for coughs, a rag to keep warmed by staying alert. The workhouse's harshness taught you endurance, but also cunning. You've learned to barter extra bread or slip a note to a friend without being caught. These small rebellions, shared with other children, built a quiet strength, a community that defies the guardian's attempts to break you. Change is stirring outside. By the 1860s, workhouse reforms will improve conditions, spurred by exposes and reformers like Louisa Twining. For now, you rely on what you've learned: literacy, resilience, and the ability to endure hunger and fear. Some orphans will fall to illness or crime, but others, like you, will use these skills to become laborers, servants, or even artisans, carrying the workhouse's lessons into the world. As you stand in the courtyard, the workhouse gates looming, you feel the weight of your time here. Your survival, and that of countless orphans, helped expose the system's cruelties, fueling changes that gave future children schools and safer homes. The workhouse shaped you, for better or worse, into someone who can face the world's hardships. As you prepare to leave, your few possessions tied in a cloth, you wonder, will the strength you've built in this harsh place carry you to a life of your own? Or will the workhouse's shadow linger in every step you take? Story 9. Apprenticeships. Learning a trade. The hard way. Imagine yourself as a 13-year-old boy in 1850s London, standing in the cramped workshop of a shoemaker in Clerkenwell, the air heavy with the scent of leather and glue. It's 1856, and the city pulses with the energy of industry. But for you, an apprentice newly bound to a master, life is a grueling initiation into a trade. Orphaned or sent by a struggling family, you've been placed here to learn shoemaking, a path meant to secure your future, but demanding years of toil. As you grip a worn awl, your hands trembling from the unfamiliar task, you step into a world where survival hinges on skill, endurance, and navigating your master's unpredictable temper. The workshop is a dim, cluttered space, its floor strewn with leather scraps and tools. Your master, Mr. Harris, a grizzled craftsman, barks orders as he cuts a sole, expecting you to learn by watching. Your tasks are menial: sweeping, fetching water, or holding leather taut for stitching, but vital to the shop's rhythm. Apprenticeships, governed by contracts often lasting 7 years, are a common fate for poor children like you, promising a trade but offering little comfort. You live in the master's house, sleeping in a drafty attic with other apprentices. Your bed a thin pallet shared with a boy named Will. Your day begins at dawn and ends past dusk, 6 days a week. Breakfast is bread and weak tea, barely enough to fuel the long hours. You're learning to punch holes in leather, but your fingers, unused to the awl, bleed from clumsy slips. Mr. Harris corrects mistakes with a sharp word or a cuff, and you quickly learn to hide errors. Will, a year into his apprenticeship, shows you how to soak leather to make it pliable, a small kindness that eases your start. The other apprentices, a mix of orphans and parish boys, form a rough camaraderie, sharing tips and whispered complaints. The work is relentless, and the stakes are high. A ruined piece of leather could mean docked wages or a beating, and you're unpaid. Your labor, the price of learning the trade. The city outside buzzes with markets and factories, but you see little of it, tied to the workshop's demands. Some masters are kinder, but Mr. Harris sees you as cheap labor, not a future craftsman. Laws like the 1814 Apprenticeship Act offer some protections, but enforcement is weak, and abuses over work, neglect are common. Despite the hardship, there's a flicker of hope. Shoemaking is a respected trade, and if you survive the apprenticeship, you might earn a living, perhaps even open your own shop. You and will dream of such a future, joking about selling boots to gentlemen in Mayfair. But the long hours and harsh treatment test your resolve, and stories of runaways or broken apprentices haunt you. As you stitch late into the night, the candle flickering, you wonder, can the skills you're learning in this unforgiving workshop lead to independence? Or will the master's demands crush your spirit before you're free? You're still that 13-year-old apprentice in the Clerkenwell shoemaker's workshop. Your hands now steadier with the awl as you toil through 1856 London. The question of whether this grueling apprenticeship can lead to independence lingers as you stitch another sole, the ache in your fingers a constant companion. The workshop, with its dim light and sharp commands, is your world, a place where every mistake is a lesson and every task a test of endurance. Yet, amidst the toil, you're learning not just a trade, but the resilience and cunning needed to survive. forging bonds with fellow apprentices that offer solace in this unforgiving life. Your days are a blur of repetitive tasks, cutting leather, stitching uppers, or polishing finished boots. Mr. Harris demands precision, and you've learned to measure twice to avoid his wrath. A single misstep, a crooked stitch, or a torn hide can mean hours of rework or a blow to the head. Will, your friend, teaches you to hide small errors with wax, a trick that saves you punishment. The other apprentices, a half-dozen boys from similar backgrounds, share stories of their past workhouses, street life during rare breaks, their laughter, a defiance of the workshop's gloom. Life with Mr. Harris is harsh. You sleep in the attic, the roof leaking in rain, and meals are sparse gruel, bread, or scraps of meat. If the master's in a good mood, the contract binds you for years, and running away risks being caught and returned, or worse, sent to prison. Some boys whisper of escape, but most endure, driven by the promise of a trade. You're starting to understand shoemaking's craft, how to shape a last or soften leather, and it sparks pride. Though the long hours leave you exhausted, your eyes strained from working by candlelight. The workshop is a microcosm of London's inequalities. Customers, from laborers to clerks, come for boots, barely noticing you, while Mr. Harris pockets their coins. Outside, the city's markets and factories hum, but you're tethered to this bench, your world narrowed to leather and thread. Reformers speak of better conditions for apprentices, but change is slow, and masters like Harris exploit lax oversight. You and Will dream of finishing your terms, perhaps partnering to start a shop, but the years ahead feel endless. The camaraderie among apprentices is your lifeline. You share a stolen apple or a tale of a fair you once saw, moments that ease the grind. Will's quick wit keeps you going, but you've seen others break boys sent away for laziness or lost to illness, their palates filled by new faces. As you hammer a sole late at night, the workshop silent save for the creak of floorboards, you cling to the skills you're gaining. Can the craft you're mastering and the bonds you're forging carry you to a life of your own? Or will the workshop's demands wear you down before you're free? You're still that 13-year-old apprentice, now 15, in the clock-and shoemaker's workshop, your hands skilled with the awl as you near the end of your term in 1858 London. The question of whether this harsh apprenticeship can lead to freedom burns as you finish a pair of boots, your craft honed but your body weary. The workshop has been your crucible, teaching you shoemaking and survival, but also leaving scars, calloused hands, a cautious spirit. As you face the end of your contract, the skills and resilience you've built offer hope, though the world beyond the workshop remains daunting. You're no longer the clumsy boy who started. You can craft a boot from start to finish, your stitches even and soles sturdy. Mr. Harris, though still harsh, grunts approval at your work, a rare sign you're ready to be a journeyman. Will, your friend, finished his term last year and now works at a larger shop, sending word of better wages. His success fuels your dream of independence, perhaps a stall in a market or your own workshop one day. But the transition is risky. Many apprentices, freed from their masters, struggle to find work in a city flooded with labor. The workshop's toll is clear. Your back aches from years of bending, and a cough lingers from the damp attic. Some apprentices didn't make it, or beatings broke them, and new boys took their place. You've survived by cunning, hiding extra food, pacing your work, and learning to read customers' needs. The workshop's community, though rough, sustained you. Shared stories and secret laughs with Will and others built a strength that carried you through. Change is stirring. By the 1860s, trade unions and reforms will improve conditions for journeymen, and factory-made shoes will challenge traditional crafts. For now, you rely on your skills and the hope of a better life. You've saved a few shillings, hidden from Mr. Harris, to buy tools or a clean shirt for work. Some apprentices turn to crime or return to the streets, but you aim higher, inspired by Will's letters and your own growing skill as you polish a final pair of boots. The workshop's familiar smells around you. You feel the weight of your journey. Your labor and that of countless apprentices fueled London's trades, building the city's economy while spurring reforms that eased later generations' burdens. Standing at the workshop door, your contract nearly done, you see the city's bustle, a world of possibility and peril. The apprenticeship shaped you into a craftsman, resilient and ready, but the future is yours to forge. As you step into the street, tools in hand, you wonder, will the trade you've mastered open doors to a life of your own? Or will the scars of these years linger in every step you take? Story 10. Juvenile delinquency, children and crime in the streets. Imagine yourself as a 12-year-old boy in 1850s London, darting through the crowded alleys of Seven Dials, a notorious slum where shadows hide both danger and opportunity. It's 1857, and the city's wealth and progress are a distant dream for you. A child of the streets with no family to claim you. Hunger drives you to slip a hand into a gentleman's pocket, snatching a handkerchief for a few pennies at a pawnshop. This is your life as a juvenile delinquent, one of countless children pushed into crime by poverty, surviving in a world where the line between right and wrong blurs under the weight of need. As you slip into a dark corner, heart pounding, you enter a hidden world of theft and cunning that defines your days. The streets are your home, a maze of muddy lanes and crumbling tenements where you sleep in doorways or under market stalls. You've learned to move like a ghost, avoiding constables who patrol with truncheons, ready to haul you to a cell. Pickpocketing is your trade, taught by an older boy named Charlie, who leads a small gang of street children. You target distracted shoppers or drunkards, your small hands perfect for slipping into coats or baskets. A stolen loaf, a watch, or even a scrap of cloth can mean food for a day, sold to fences who deal in stolen goods. Your gang is your family, a rough crew of boys and girls bound by survival. Charlie, barely 16, teaches you to spot a mark or dodge a shopkeeper's grab. You share spoils, a hot pie or a sip of gin, huddled in an abandoned cellar. Your laughter a brief escape from fear. But trust is fragile. A boy might snitch for a reward, and fights over loot are common. The streets are unforgiving, with rival gangs, angry vendors, or disease waiting to strike. Cholera took a friend last summer, and you've seen others carted off to prison. Crime is not a choice, but a necessity. Your parents are gone, and the workhouse looms as a worse fate with its starvation and labor. You've tried honest work, sweeping crossings, selling papers, but the pennies weren't enough. Reformers like Mary Carpenter talk of saving street Arabs, but their ragged schools are far from your patch, and charity feels like a trap. You know the risks. A caught thief faces jail or transportation to Australia. A fate whispered in dread. As you pocket a stolen coin, the thrill mixes with fear. Charlie says you're clever, maybe good enough to lead one day, but the constables are closing in, their patrols tighter after a spate of thefts. You dream of a big Scora purse, full of shillings to escape this life, perhaps to a trade or a new city. As you hide in the alley's shadows, the city's din around you, you wonder, can your cunning keep you free, or will the street's dangers catch you before you can escape their grip? You're still that 12-year-old pickpocket in 7 Dials. Your life, a high-stakes game of theft and survival in 1857 London. The question of whether your cunning can keep you free lingers as you slip through the crowded market, eyes scanning for a loose pocket or an unguarded stall. The streets are both your stage and your snare, offering fleeting rewards but threatening capture at every turn. You've honed your skills, but the cost of this life fear, betrayal, and the ever-present shadow of punishment weighs heavier each day, even as your gang's camaraderie offers a fragile sense of belonging. Your days revolve around the hustle. You and Charlie's gang work the busy streets, Covent Garden, Petticoat Lane, where crowds mask your movements. You've learned to brush past a mark, lifting a watch or a kerchief in a blink, your heart racing as you melt into the throng. Charlie teaches you new tricks, distracting a shopkeeper with a fake fall, or using a younger girl, like Nell, to beg while you steal. The hall coins, trinkets, or food Ds split in your cellar hideout, where you trade stories of close calls over a shared loaf. The gang is your lifeline, but it's fraught with tension. Charlie's temper flares when someone holds back loot, and Nell, desperate for approval, might snitch to avoid a beating. You've learned to hide a coin or two, saving for a dream of a train ticket to Liverpool, maybe, or a bribe for an apprenticeship. The streets teach survival, how to spot a plainclothes constable, dodge a rival gang, or talk your way out of trouble. But danger is constant. Last week, a boy was caught stealing bread and sent to Newgate. His fate, a warning to you all. The city's response to juvenile crime is harsh. Courts see you as a menace, not a child driven by hunger. Reformers like Mary Carpenter push for industrial schools to teach trades, but you've seen their outreach preachers offering soup with sermons, mistrusted by street kids. Honest work tempts you sweeping or hawking, but the pay can't match theft's quick rewards. Disease is another threat. The slum's filth breeds fever, and you've buried friends lost to cholera despite the risks. There's a thrill in outsmarting the city. A successful theft buys a hot meal or a night in a lodging house, a rare comfort. You and Charlie dream of a big Scora gentleman's purse, enough to change your life, but the constables are watching, and whispers of a crackdown grow louder. As you slip a stolen apple into your pocket, the market's noise around you, you wonder, can your quick hands and quicker wits keep you one step ahead, or will the law's tightening grip end your freedom before you can find a way out? You're still that 12-year-old pickpocket, now 14, navigating the perilous streets of 7 Dials in 1859 London. The question of whether your wits can secure a way out of this criminal life burns as you dodge a constable's gaze, a stolen coin hidden in your palm. The streets have been your teacher, sharpening your cunning but also marking you with the weight of constant fear and loss. As you face the tightening net of the law and the toll of your choices, the faint hope of a new path through trade or luck merges. Though the city's underbelly threatens to hold you fast, you've grown bolder, leading small thefts when Charlie's away. Your gang has dwindled. Nell was caught shoplifting and sent to a reformatory, her fate uncertain. You've mastered pickpocketing, lifting purses in crowded markets, but the thrill is fading, replaced by dread of capture. A recent close call, narrowly escaping a trap set by plainclothes police, left you shaken. The courts are harsher now. Transportation to Australia is less common, but juvenile prisons like Tot Hill Fields await their grim cells, a whispered terror. Your skills are your strength. You can read a crowd, talk your way out of suspicion, and fence goods for a fair price. These talents, born of crime, could serve honest worker messenger, a market porter, but finding such jobs is hard without references. You've saved a few shillings, hidden in a loose brick, dreaming of a shoemaker's apprenticeship or a fresh start far from London. Charlie, now running riskier schemes, urges you to stay, but you see his path leading to jail or worse. Disease remains a threat. A fever swept the slums last month, claiming a younger boy in your gang. Reforms are stirring. By the 1860s, industrial schools will offer trades to street children, and philanthropists like Dr. Bernardo will open homes for orphans. But for now, you rely on your own guile. A kind stallholder once gave you a day's work carrying baskets, hinting at a life beyond theft. You've started visiting a mission where a teacher offers reading lessons, sparking hope of a clerk's job. Your gang's camaraderie, though fraying, taught you loyalty and survival, skills you'll carry forward. Standing in an alley, the city's clamor around you, you weigh your stolen coin against your dreams. Your life of crime helped fuel London's underworld, but also exposed its cruelties, pushing reformers to save future children. As you slip into the crowd, your savings heavy in your pocket, you feel the weight of your choices. Your cunning has kept you free, but the streets' dangers loom. The resilience you've built may yet lead to a trade or a new city, shaping a legacy of survival. As you vanish into the market, you wonder, will your street-learned skills open a door to an honest life, or will the city's shadows claim you before you can break free? Word count 553. Story 11. Festive times, holidays, and celebrations. Imagine yourself as an 11-year-old child in 1850s London, weaving through the bustling streets of Whitechapel as the chill of December 1857 settles over the city. You're a match seller, your hands red from cold, but today the air carries the faint promise of Christmas, a rare moment of brightness in your hard-scrabble life. The slums, usually grim with mud and smoke, come alive with the sounds of carols and the scent of roasted chestnuts from street vendors. For you, a child of the poor, holidays like Christmas or May Day are fleeting escapes, moments when the city's harshness softens and you glimpse joy amidst the struggle. As you clutch your matches, drawn to a market aglow with candlelight, you step into a world where even the poorest find ways to celebrate. Christmas transforms the streets. Shop windows, far beyond your means, display toys and sweets, while hawkers sell holly sprigs and penny pies. Your family, squeezed into a damp tenement, scrapes together pennies for a small goose or a pudding. A luxury that means skipping rent or coal. You've joined other children singing carols door to door, hoping for a halfpenny or a crust of bread from a kind servant. In the slums, celebrations are makeshift, but heartfelt neighbors share a jug of ale. And your mother tells stories of her village's old Yule traditions, her voice warm despite the cold. Your friend Eliza, a flower seller, shows you the best spots to sing near grand houses in Bloomsbury, where tips are generous. You've learned a few carols, God rest ye merry. Gentleman is a favorite, and your thin voice blends with hers in the frosty air. These moments are rare. Most days, you're dodging constables or hawking matches to survive. But holidays bring a sense of community, even in the slums. Families pool resources, and children like you play games, spinning tops, or blind man's buffin alleys lit by stolen candle stubs. Yet the joy is tempered. Hunger lingers, and the cold bites harder without a proper coat. Charity missions offer soup or blankets, but their sermons feel distant, and some neighbors avoid them, wary of workhouse recruiters. Disease, ever present, casts a shadow. Last Christmas, a neighbor's child died of fever, dampening the festivities. Still, you and Eliza dream of a feast, perhaps a hot pie all to yourselves. As you sing under gaslit streets, the city's wealthier classes celebrate with lavish dinners. But in the slums, you make do, turning scraps into festivity. Reformers note the poor's resilience, but their aid rarely reaches your alley. As you huddle with Eliza, practicing a new carol, the market's glow warms your heart. Can these fleeting holidays, with their songs and shared scraps, offer enough joy to sustain you through the winter's grind? Or will the slum's hardships steal even these moments of light? You're still that 11-year-old match seller in Whitechapel, your breath visible in the frosty air of December 1857 as you and Eliza plan your Christmas rounds. The question of whether these holiday moments can sustain you through the slums grind lingers as you sing another carol, your voice carrying over the market's bustle. The streets, alive with festive energy, offer a rare chance to forget hunger and cold. But the harsh realities of your life, poverty, disease, and the constant need to earn hover close, threatening to dim the light of celebration. Yet, you and your friends find ways to weave joy from scraps, making holidays a testament to your resilience. The slum's Christmas is a collective effort. Your mother saves a penny for suet to make a pudding shared with neighbors in your tenement. You and Eliza join other children in decorating a corner with holly and paper chains, crafted from scavenged bits of newsprint. The act feels defiant, turning a damp room into a festive space. On Christmas Eve, you sing door to door, your best haul, a shilling from a tipsy gentleman, enough for a hot meal. The money buys a pie, split among your family, its warmth a rare comfort against the winter's bite. Holidays beyond Christmas, like May Day, bring their own joys. In spring, you've danced around a makeshift Maypolean old broomstick, tied with rags, laughing with Eliza as you weave through the steps. These moments are stolen from work. Selling matches waits as you play, but the need to earn always pulls you back. The slum's children create their own traditions, racing hoops or singing rhymes, turning alleys into playgrounds. But danger lurks. A careless step can mean a twisted ankle, and illness spreads fast in crowded tenements, dampening even festive days. The community is your strength. Neighbors share what little they have, a sip of ale, a story, a song binding you together. Eliza's quick wit keeps you laughing, but you've seen others falter. A boy who sang with you last Christmas vanished, likely to a workhouse or worse. Charity missions offer festive aid, but their help comes with sermons, and many avoid them, preferring the slums' rough solidarity. Reformers note your spirit, but their schools or shelters are distant, and survival demands your focus. As you sing under a gas lamp, the crowd tossing pennies, you feel a fleeting sense of belonging. The holidays knit the slums into a tapestry of shared hope, but the cold and hunger wait. You and Eliza dream of a Christmas with enough food to fill you, perhaps a day without work. As you pocket your earnings, the market's lights fading, you wonder, can these bursts of festive joy, crafted from so little, build a strength that lasts? Or will the city's relentless demands steal them before spring? You're still that 11-year-old match seller, now 12, standing in a Whitechapel alley as the Christmas of 1858 approaches. The question of whether festive joy can build lasting strength burns as you share a scavenged apple with Eliza. The slums aglow with makeshift holiday cheer. These celebrations, Christmas carols. As you grow, the city's demands press harder, but the resilience and community forged in these holidays offer hope for a future beyond the streets, even as poverty's shadow looms. This Christmas is your last as a match seller. You're growing, too old for the trade, pushed toward harder work like carrying coal. Yet the holidays remain a lifeline. You and Eliza sing carols with new confidence, earning enough for a small feast, bread, cheese, and a rare orange, shared with your tenement's families. These moments knit you closer, your laughter drowning out the coughs that signal winter's diseases. Last spring's May Day, with its ragtide maypole, lingers in your memory, a reminder of joy you'll carry forward. The slum's festive spirit is fragile. Hunger and cold persist, and some neighbors, weakened by illness, won't see another Christmas. You've learned to cherish small victories, a warm corner, a shared song, a penny saved for next year's pudding. The community's strength, neighbors pooling scraps, children teaching each other rhymes, has taught you resilience, skills you'll use in new work. A mission school, visited during last year's holidays, taught you to read simple words, sparking dreams of a shop job. Reforms are stirring. By the 1870s, laws will bring schools and better housing, easing the burdens of children like you. For now, you rely on the slums' traditions, their celebrations, a defiance of hardship. Some friends have fallen lost to fever or the workhouse, but others, like Eliza, push on, her flower selling now earning enough for a shared room. You dream of a trade, perhaps as a baker's helper, where holidays might mean more than survival. As you stand in the market, carols echoing, you feel the weight of your journey. The slums' festive times, though humble, fueled London's spirit, their resilience shaping reforms that gave future children schools and safety. Your holidays, stitched from songs and scraps, built a strength that carries you forward. As you pocket your last match, selling penny, Eliza's smile beside you. You wonder, will the joy and community of these celebrations light your path to a better life? or will the slum's hardships dim their glow before you can find your way? Story 13. Crossing Sweepers, Keeping London's Streets Clean. Imagine yourself as a 10-year-old child in 1850s London, gripping a worn broom as you stand at a busy crossing in Holborn, where carriages and pedestrians churn the streets into a muddy mess. It's 1852, and the city is a hub of commerce and chaos, its roads thick with horse dung, coal dust, and refuse. As a crossing sweeper, your job is to clear a path for well-dressed gentlemen and ladies, hoping for a tossed penny or a kind glance. Your life is one of constant hustle in the open air, a child among the city's poorest, yet your broom and quick smile are your tools for survival. As you sweep away mud, dodging a passing cart, you step into a world where small acts of labor carve out a fragile existence. The crossing is your territory, a busy corner where you work from dawn to dusk. Your broom, scavenged or bought for a shilling, is your livelihood, its bristles worn from scraping cobbles. You sweep tirelessly, creating a clean path for passersby, your small frame darting between horses and wheels. A kind lady might toss you a halfpenny, but others hurry past, their boots splattered despite your efforts. The coins you earn, perhaps a few pence on a good day buy bread or a night in a lodging house, shared with your mother or other street children. You're not alone. Other sweepers, mostly children or the elderly, claim nearby crossings, and you've befriended a girl named Sarah who works a street over. She teaches you to bow politely, to attract tips, and warns you about rival sweepers who might steal your spot. The streets are treacherous mud, hides broken glass, and a careless step can mean a twisted ankle. Winter brings biting cold, soaking your ragged clothes, while summer's heat and dust choke your throat. Crossing sweeping is one of the few honest jobs open to children like you, an alternative to the workhouse or crime. Your mother, a washerwoman, relies on your pennies, and the slums where you live, a damp room in St. Giles Dam, every coin. Reformers like Charles Dickens write of your plight, but their words rarely bring aid to your corner. A ragged school taught you to scratch your name, but lessons are rare when survival calls. As you sweep, a gentleman tosses you a penny, a small victory that means supper. You and Sarah shared dreams of better work, perhaps a shop job, but for now, the broom is your life. The city depends on your labor, its streets passable because of children like you, yet you're nearly invisible. As you clear another path, the cities roar around you. You wonder, can this humble work, scraping a living from the mud, lead to something more? Or will the street's endless grind keep you sweeping forever? You're still that 10-year crossing sweeper in Holborn, your broom worn to a stub, as you clear mud from your corner in 1852 London. The question of whether this grueling work can lead to something more lingers as you dodge a carriage, your quick smile earning a halfpenny from a passerby. The streets are your workplace, a chaotic stage where you fight for every coin, but they also teach you resilience and cunning. Your bond with Sarah and the fragile community of sweepers offer solace, but the city's harsh demands, cold, hunger, and competition threaten to keep you tethered to this muddy life. Your days are a relentless cycle. You rise before dawn, gulping a crust of bread if you're lucky, then claim your crossing before a rival does. Sweeping is backbreaking. The mud, mixed with dung and refuse, clings to your broom, and rain turns it to a slurry that splashes your ragged clothes. Sarah shows you how to charm passers-by with a quick bow or a cheery sweep your way, sir. But many ignore you, and some days yield only a penny or two. Those coins buy a hot potato or a corner in a lodging house. But hunger is a constant shadow, and your mother's laundry work barely covers rent. The sweepers community is your lifeline. You and Sarah share tips avoiding constables, spotting generous regulars, and split a scavenged apple when coins are scarce. But competition is fierce. Older boys sometimes muscle in, threatening to steal your spot. And you've learned to stand your ground or run. Greater than the streets are perilous disease. Lurks in the mud, and a cut from broken glass can fester with no doctor to help. Last month, a sweeper friend vanished, likely taken by fever or the workhouse. The city relies on your labor. Its crossings passable because of your broom, but you're barely seen. Reformers write of child workers, but their charity soup kitchens. Mission schools feels distant, and many distrust their motives. Your ragged school lessons help you count coins, but survival demands your focus. You dream of a trade, perhaps a shop boy or messenger where you're not at the mercy of weather or whims. Sarah talks of selling flowers, a step up from sweeping, but the path is unclear. As you clear another path, the cold biting your fingers, you feel the weight of your labor. The streets have taught you to endure, to charm, to survive, but the grind is relentless. You and Sarah share a laugh, planning to sneak to a fair if you earn enough. Can the skills and spirit you've gained on this muddy crossing open a door to a better life? Or will the city's unyielding demands keep you sweeping its filth forever? You're still that 10-year-old crossing sweeper, now 12, standing at your Holborn corner with a sturdier broom in 1850 for London. The question of whether your street labor can lead to a better life burns as you sweep away mud, your quick bout earning a rare shilling from a kind gentleman. The crossing has been your school, teaching resilience and resourcefulness, but also marking you with cold, hunger, and the fragility of your place in the city. As you grow too old for sweeping, the skills and bonds you've built with Sarah and others offer hope, though the path to adulthood remains uncertain in a world that barely sees you. You're nearing the end of your sweeping days. At 12, you're too tall to pass as a poor child, and tips are harder to come by. Sarah, now selling flowers nearby, urges you to try a new trade, perhaps carrying bags at the market or running errands for a shop. Your street skills, quick feet, a sharp eye for opportunity give you an edge, and your ragged school lessons let you read signs and count money accurately. You've saved a few pennies, hidden from your mother's desperate needs, for a better broom or a clean shirt to seek work. The toll of sweeping is evident. Your hands are calloused, your lungs raw from dust and cold, and the slum's diseases have claimed friends one lost to cholera last winter. Yet, the sweepers' community sustained you. Sarah shared her shawl on freezing days, and you taught younger boys to dodge carts. This camaraderie, born of shared hardship, built a resilience you'll carry forward. Some sweepers turn to crime or the workhouse, but you aim higher. Inspired by Sarah's move to a less grueling trade, change is stirring. By the 1860s, street cleaning will shift to municipal workers, and education laws will pull children into schools. reducing the need for sweepers. For now, you rely on your grit and the hope of a shopkeeper noticing your hustle. Your labor, though humble, kept London's streets passable, a quiet contribution to the city's bustle. Reformers' writings, sparked by children like you, will drive better conditions for future generations. As you sweep your corner one last time, Sarah waving from her flower stall, you feel the weight of your journey. Your work helped shape a city, your resilience fueling reforms that gave later children cleaner streets and classrooms. Standing at the crossing, your broom worn, but your spirit strong, you see the city's endless flower world of struggle and possibility as you pocket your last penny, dreaming of a new trade. You wonder, will the strength you've built sweeping London's streets carry you to a brighter future? Or will the city's shadows linger in every path you clear? Story 14. Costermongers, young street sellers. Imagine yourself as a 12-year-old costermonger in 1850s London, pushing a rickety barrow through the crowded streets of Covent Garden. Your voice, hoarse from shouting apples to a penny. It's 1853, and the city is a vibrant chaos of markets and slums, where you, a child of the poor, make a living selling fruit, fish, or flowers. Your barrow, borrowed from an older cousin, is piled with bruised apples, and your day is spent haggling with passers-by for every coin. As you dodge a horse cart, your patched clothes soaked by drizzle, you step into a world where quick wits and a loud cry are your tools for survival in the bustling street trade. The market is your domain, a noisy maze of stalls where, like you, compete for customers. You've learned to shout your wares above the din, mimicking the older sellers' rhythmic calls. Your apples, bought cheap from a wholesaler, earn a few pennies profit, enough to buy supper or pay for a shared bed in a Whitechapel tenement. Your mother, a washerwoman, and your siblings, also street sellers, rely on your earnings to keep the landlord at bay. You're not alone. Other children's, some as young as 8 hawk wares nearby, their barrows laden with cabbages or herrings. You've befriended a girl named Meg who sells violets and teaches you to spot good marks, customers likely to buy. The coster life is tough. Rain ruins your stock, and rival sellers might undercut your prices or steal your pitch. The streets are dangerous. Two thieves eye your takings, and constables chase you for blocking paths. Greater than mud and filth breed disease, and a cough from last winter lingers in your chest. Costermongering is one of the few trades open to children like you, a step above begging, but below a formal apprenticeship. You've picked up some reading at a ragged school, enough to count coins, but the market is your real classroom. Reformers like Henry Mayhew write of your life, calling costers the nomads of London, but their words don't fill your barrow or your belly. You dream of owning a bigger barrow, maybe selling fish for better profits, but for now, every sale is a fight. As you sell an apple to a hurried clerk, his penny warm in your hand, you feel a spark of pride. The market's energy, your quick deals with Meg, and the hope of a hot meal keep you going. Yet the grind is relentless, and the slums, poverty looms. Can this street trade, with its hard-won pennies and fleeting triumphs, lead to a better life? Or will the city's chaos keep you pushing your barrow forever? You're still that 12-year-old costermonger in Covent Garden, your barrow lighter as you sell the last of your apples in 1853 London. The question of whether this street trade can lead to a better life lingers as you shout your wares, your voice blending with the market's clamor. The streets are your livelihood, a vibrant but unforgiving world where every sale is a victory, and every loss-spoiled stock a stolen coin cuts deep. Your bond with Meg and the Coster community fuels your resilience. But the city's harsh realities, poverty, competition, and disease threaten to keep you tethered to this grueling life. Your day starts at dawn, hauling your barrow to the market to buy stock apples or onions, whatever's cheapest. You've learned to haggle with wholesalers, stretching your few shillings to maximize profit. Selling is a performance. You call out fine apples, sweet as sugar, while dodging carts and rival costers. Meg teaches you to smile at ladies who might buy out of pity, but many passers-by ignore you. And a bad day means no supper greater than your earnings, perhaps sixpence. Go to your family's tenement, rent, or a shared bed in a lodging house. The Coster life is a community effort. You and Meg share a hot potato when sales are good, and older costers, like your cousin, lend a hand or warn of constables. But rivalry is fierce. Another boy might undercut your prices, and thieves lurk, eyeing your coins. The street's dangers are constant. A slip in the mud can sprain an ankle, and the slum's filth breeds fevers that took a friend last summer. You've learned to hide your takings and avoid dark alleys, skills honed by necessity. The city sees costers as rough but vital, their cries part of London's pulse. Reformers like Mayhew document your struggles, but their charity mission soup or ragged schools feels distant, and many distrust it. Your market's sav accounting. From experience, not books, you dream of a bigger trade, perhaps a cart with fish or flowers, or even a shop stall. But the path is steep, and your family's needs eat your savings as you push your barrow through the dusk. Meg's laugh echoing, you feel the weight of your trade. The market has taught you to hustle, to charm, to survive, but the grind is endless. You and Meg plan to sneak to a fair if sales improve, a rare break from the barrow. Can the skills and spirit you've gained as a costermonger, shouting in the city's heart, open a door to a brighter future? Or will the street's relentless demands keep you selling scraps forever? You're still that 12-year-old costermonger, now 14, steering your barrow through Covent Garden's fading bustle in 1855 London. The question of whether your street trade can lead to a brighter future burns as you sell a final onion, your voice hoarse but your spirit unbroken. The market has been your school, teaching you to haggle, charm, and survive, but it's also marked you with hunger and the wear of endless days. As you grow too old for a child's barrow, the skills and bonds with Meg and the Coster community offer hope, though the city's relentless poverty threatens to keep you tethered to its streets. You're outgrowing costermongering. At 14, you're expected to take on heavier work, perhaps carting goods or apprenticing, but your market skills give you an edge. You've saved shillings, hidden from your family's desperate needs, for a better barrow or a chance at a shop job. Meg, now selling flowers full-time, has moved to a better pitch, her success inspiring you to aim higher. Your ragged school lessons let you read price signs and tally earnings, a small advantage in a competitive world. The Coster life's toll is clear. Your hands are rough, your cough lingers from damp tenement air, and disease has claimed Pierswan, lost to typhus last winter. Yet, the market's community sustained you. Meg shared her shawl on cold days, and you taught younger costers to dodge thieves. Some friends turned to crime, lured by quick coins, but you've stayed honest, driven by the hope of a trade. A stallholders offered to carry goods, hints at a step up, a chance to leave the barrow behind. Change is stirring. By the 1860s, markets will formalize, and education laws will pull children into schools, reducing young costers. For now, you rely on your hustle and the market's rhythm. Your labor, though humble, fueled London's markets, your cries shaping its character. Reformers like Mayhew, inspired by costers, pushed for better lives for street children. A legacy you helped build, standing in the market, your barrow empty. You see Meg's flower stall glowing under gaslight. Your journey as a costermonger built resilience, a voice that carried over London's din, and a community that held you up. As you pocket your last penny, dreaming of a shop or a cart of your own, you feel the weight of your trade. Your work helped shape a city, driving reforms that gave future children schools and stability. As you push your barrow home, Meg's wave a promise of tomorrow. You wonder, will the skills you've honed in the market's chaos lead to a life beyond the streets? Or will the slum's shadows linger in every sale you make? Story 15. Scavenging the Thames. Imagine yourself as a 9-year-old mudlark in 1850s London, wading through the cold, slimy mud of the Thames banks near Wapping, your bare feet sinking into the river's filth. It's 1854, and the city hums with trade and industry. But for you, an orphan scraping by on the margins, the river is both workplace and lifeline. Your job is to scavenge anything of value: coal, rope, or bones from the Thames' muddy shores, selling your finds for a few pennies to buy bread. As you bend to snatch a lump of coal, the tide tugging at your ragged trousers, you step into a world of grueling labor and fleeting hope, where survival depends on sharp eyes and quick hands. The Thames is a treacherous treasure trove, its banks littered with debris from ships and docks. You work at low tide, scrambling over slippery rocks and dodging sharp metal scraps. Your fingers numb from cold, a good finda, bit of copper, or a lost tool can fetch a penny at a rag shop. But most days yield only coal or bones, barely enough for a crust greater than the river's stench, thick with sewage and rot, clogs your throat, and the water carries disease. Cholera and typhus are constant threats. You're not alone. Other mudlarks, mostly children or the destitute, comb the banks nearby. You've befriended a boy named Jem, who teaches you to spot shiny metal in the mud and warns of tides that can trap the unwary. You share finza, broken bottles split for its glass ore, huddle together for warmth in a dockside alley. Rival mudlarks or dock workers sometimes steal your haul, and constables chase you for trespassing. Seeing you as little more than vermin, mudlarking is a desperate trade, one of the lowest for children like you, an alternative to the workhouse or theft. You've learned a few letters at a mission school, enough to recognize wanted posters, but the river is your real teacher. Reformers like Henry Mayhew write of your plight, calling mudlarks the poorest of the poor, but their words don't fill your empty stomach. You dream of a warmer job, perhaps sweeping crossings, but for now, The Thames is your only hope.